The leather smells wrong. Not new car wrong. Not clean wrong. Just wrong in a way that makes Kale's stomach twist before his brain catches up. He's counting breaths again. 4 in, hold, 6 out. The trick his sister taught him back when panic attacks were something he could name out loud. The engine hums too steady. No music. No conversation. Just Riven's hands on the wheel, pale knuckles tight against dark leather, and the road stretching past streetlights that thin out with every mile. Kale's phone sits in the cup holder between them. Screen down. Riven put it there 20 minutes ago with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. So we can focus, he'd said. The bag in Kale's lap weighs nothing. 1 change of clothes. Toothbrush. The kind of packing you do when you're pretending everything's normal even though your hands won't stop shaking. He'd thought about bringing more. Thought about a lot of things. But thinking and doing split apart somewhere around the 3rd year, when I love you started sounding like I own you, and he stopped being able to tell the difference. Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. The heater blasts hot air that doesn't warm anything. Kale shifts his legs, feels his jeans stick to the seat, and realizes he's sweating despite the February cold pressing against the window. Outside, trees replace buildings. Darkness replaces light. The kind of dark that doesn't exist in the city, where something's always glowing. Where are we going? His voice cracks on the last word. Kale hates that. Hates how his body betrays him before he's even sure there's danger. Riven doesn't look at him. Somewhere we can talk. For words. Calm. Reasonable. The kind of calm that makes Kale's pulse spike because he knows that tone. That's the voice Riven uses when he's already decided how the night ends, and he's just waiting for Kale to catch up. We could have talked at home. No. Riven's jaw tightens, a muscle jumping beneath skin that always looks too perfect in photographs. We couldn't. The road narrows. Streetlights die completely. Just headlights now, cutting through snow that started falling in lazy spirals, the kind that looks peaceful until you're stuck in it. Kale's fingers dig into his thighs, nails biting through denim, and he counts again. 4 in. Hold. 6 out. They pass a sign he can't read in the dark. Then another. Then nothing. Riven slows the car. Not stopping. Just slowing like he's looking for something specific. A turn. A marker. Place he's been before. Kale's stomach drops. Riven. You were going to leave. Not a question. Riven's voice stays level, almost pleasant, the way it gets when he's most dangerous. Without talking to me. Without giving me a chance to fix this. I wasn't. Don't lie. The car pulls off the road onto gravel that crunches under the tires. Then dirt. Then something that might be grass or might be mud, half frozen and uneven. The headlights catch trees, bare branches reaching like fingers, and beyond them, nothing. Just forest stretching into black. Riven puts the car in park. Doesn't turn it off. The engine idles, a low growl that fills the silence between them. Get out, Riven says. Kale's hands don't move. Can't move. Because getting out means something, and his body knows it even if his mind is still trying to find the logic, the explanation, the way this is actually fine and he's overreacting like Riven always says he does. Kale. Riven turns now, and his face looks wrong in the dashboard glow. Too sharp, too focused, like he's solving a problem instead of looking at a person. Get out of the car. The cold hits first when Kale opens the door. February in full force, wind cutting through his jacket like it's made of paper. His boots hit frozen ground, and he stumbles, catches himself on the car door, feels snow melting against his palm. Riven's already out. Already moving around the front of the car with that loose, easy stride that used to make Kale feel safe. Protected. Before he learned that predators move smooth because they don't need to rush. We're just talking, Riven says. He's close now. Too close. Kale can smell his cologne, the expensive kind he wears to fundraisers and photo ops, and underneath it, something else. Something sharp. That's all this is. A conversation. Kale backs up. His heel catches on something, a root, a rock, and he staggers. Riven's hand shoots out, grabs his arm, steadies him with fingers that press too hard into muscle. Careful, Riven says, still smiling. Don't want you getting hurt. The snow falls heavier now. Fat flakes that stick to Kale's eyelashes and melt on his lips. He tastes salt and realizes he's biting the inside of his cheek. An old habit he thought he'd broken. Behind them, the road sits empty. No cars. No lights. No witnesses. Just trees and dark and the sound of Riven's breathing, steady and controlled, while Kale's own comes in short, sharp gasps that fog the air between them. You don't get to leave, Riven says, and his voice drops lower now, losing the performance, showing the truth underneath. You don't get to embarrass me, make me look weak, like I can't even keep my own. He stops, regroups. The smile comes back, but it's thinner now, stretched too tight. We belong together, he continues. You know that. You've always known that. And sometimes we forget, and that's okay. That's why we talk. That's why we fix things. Kale's mouth opens, closes. Words pile up behind his teeth but won't come out because what's the point? How many times has he tried to explain? How many times has Riven twisted his words into something else? Something that makes Kale the problem, the dramatic one, the one who doesn't appreciate what he has. His phone's still in the car. His bag's still in the car. Everything that matters is still in the car. And he's out here in the cold with a man whose eyes don't match his smile. Riven, please. Shoo. Riven steps closer, cups Kale's face with both hands, gentle like a lover, tight like a trap. You're shaking. See? This is what happens when you make bad decisions. Your body knows. It's trying to tell you something. The touch burns. Not from heat, from wrongness, from the knowledge that this isn't love, has never been love. Even when Kale wanted it to be so badly, he convinced himself containment felt like care. Snow collects on Riven's shoulders, in his hair. Makes him look almost soft in the dim glow of the headlights. Like someone you'd trust. Someone you'd follow home. Kale tries to pull back. Riven doesn't let go. We're going to fix this, Riven says, and his thumbs press against Kale's cheekbones, firm enough to hurt. Right here, right now. And then we're going home, and things are going to be better. Okay? It's not a question. It never was. What would you do if the person who claimed to love you drove you somewhere no one could hear you scream? Riven's grip shifts from face to shoulder, and the change feels worse somehow, more businesslike, as if affection was just the opening argument and now comes the verdict. Kale's boots slide on ice-slick ground when Riven moves him. Not pushes, not yet, just repositions like furniture, until his back hits the side of the car, cold metal biting through his jacket. You packed a bag. Riven's voice stays conversational, the kind of tone he uses on conference calls, and that wrongness makes Kale's skin crawl. One bag. Like you thought you could just walk away from 3 years with one bag. I wasn't. You were. Riven's hand comes up, one finger raised, and Kale's mouth snaps shut before he makes the conscious choice to stop talking. Trained. That's what his sister would say. Trained like a dog. Don't insult me by lying. We're past that now. The snow keeps falling. Kale watches it accumulate on the hood of the car, perfect white against black paint, and focuses on that instead of the way his heart's trying to break through his ribs. 4 in. Hold. 6 out. Except the breathing exercise doesn't work when you can't catch your breath in the first place. Do you know what I've done for you? Riven doesn't wait for an answer. He never does. The opportunities I've given you, the doors I've opened, you'd be nothing without me. Working some dead-end job, living in some roach-infested apartment, invisible. Each word lands precise, calculated. Riven's always been good with words. That's how he makes his money. Selling safety to people who don't realize they're buying their own cages. He speaks at conferences about protecting vulnerable populations, and people applaud, and nobody asks why his own partner flinches when he reaches for him. Kale's fingers curl into fists at his sides. Useless. What's he going to do? Fight back? Riven works out 6 days a week, has 20 pounds on him easy, knows exactly where to hit so it doesn't show. And even if Kale somehow won, then what? He's miles from anywhere, no phone, no plan beyond the fantasy that walking out a door meant being free. Say something. Riven leans in close enough that Kale can see his pupils, blown wide in the darkness. Defend yourself. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you weren't going to destroy everything we built because you had a bad day and decided to be selfish. I just needed space. The words come out small, and Kale hates himself for how weak he sounds. That's all. Just some space to think. You don't need space. Riven's hand moves to Kale's throat. Not squeezing, just resting there, a reminder of how easy it would be. You need me. You've always needed me. And the sooner you remember that, the sooner we can go home and forget this happened. Something moves in the trees. Kale catches it in his peripheral vision. A shadow darker than the rest, low to the ground. His eyes dart toward it without thinking, and Riven notices because Riven notices everything. What? He doesn't turn. Doesn't release his hold. What are you looking at? Nothing. I thought. Kale swallows against the pressure on his throat. I thought I saw something. There's nothing out here but us. Riven's smile returns, and it's the worst one yet. The one that says he's enjoying this. That's the point. No interruptions. No distractions. Just you and me, working through our problems like adults. The wind picks up, carries sound with it. A whisper, maybe, or just branches scraping together. Kale can't tell. Can't focus on anything except the cold and the fear and the growing certainty that this conversation doesn't end with talking. Riven's free hand goes to his pocket. Kale's stomach lurches. But it's just keys. Riven pulls them out, tosses them once, catches them with a casual flip that shows off the platinum keychain. A gift from some politician's wife, engraved with his initials like he's someone who matters, someone whose name should be remembered. Here's what's going to happen, Riven says, and his voice drops to something almost gentle, which is worse than anger, because at least anger makes sense. You're going to apologize for wasting my time, for making me drive all the way out here, for making me be the bad guy when all I've ever done is love you. Kale's jaw aches from clenching. I'm sorry. Mean it. I'm sorry. Louder this time. I'm sorry. Okay? I wasn't thinking straight. I was confused. You were selfish. Riven's thumb strokes the side of Kale's neck, a parody of affection. Say it. I was selfish. And stupid. And stupid. And lucky. Riven leans in, close enough that his breath fogs between them. Lucky that I care enough to correct you instead of just letting you ruin your life. Some people wouldn't be this patient. Some people would have given up on you already. The words should sound threatening. They do sound threatening. But underneath the threat is something worse, belief. Riven actually thinks he's being kind. Thinks this is love. Thinks control and care are the same thing, and maybe that's the most terrifying part, that he's not a villain in his own story. Just a hero whose methods nobody appreciates. That shadow moves again. Closer now. Kale's eyes flick toward it before he can stop himself. And this time he's sure. Something's there, just past the reach of the headlights. Small and low and absolutely still like prey watching a predator. I said stop looking. Riven's hand tightens on his throat. Not enough to choke. Just enough to remind. There's nothing there. You're stalling. You always do this when you know you're wrong. Distract, deflect, make it about something else instead of taking responsibility. I'm not. Kale's voice cuts off when the pressure increases. Don't argue with me. Riven's other hand comes up to join the first, both palms framing Kale's neck now, thumbs pressing against his windpipe with increasing weight. I'm tired of arguing. I'm tired of explaining. I'm tired of you acting like I'm the problem when I'm the only reason you have anything at all. The world narrows. Sound fades to just breathing, Riven steady, Kale's ragged, and the whistle of wind through bare branches. The headlights make everything look staged, theatrical, like they're actors in a play nobody asked to see. Kale's hands come up on instinct, wrap around Riven's wrists. Not fighting, just holding. Just trying to keep connected to something solid while the edges of his vision start to blur. You need this, Riven whispers. You need to understand. Actions have consequences. Choices have consequences. And choosing to leave me? That's not a choice you get to make. The pressure releases. Kale gasps, doubles over, hands on his knees while his lungs remember how to work. Spit hangs from his lip. Snow melts under his palms where they hit the ground. Everything tastes like copper and fear. When he looks up, Riven's expression has shifted into something almost sad. Like he's the victim here, forced to do something he didn't want to do. See what you make me do? Riven reaches down, helps Kale stand, dusts snow off his shoulders with gentle hands that just finished choking him. I don't want to be like this. You know I don't. But you push and you push until I have no choice, and then you act surprised when I push back. Kale can't speak, can't process, can't do anything except stand there while his body shakes and his mind tries to find the logic in madness. That's when he hears it. Not the shadow, not the wind. A whimper, small, terrified, human. His head snaps toward the sound, and Riven's does too, and for a moment they're unified in confusion before understanding hits. There's a child in the trees, standing maybe 20 feet away, partially hidden behind a trunk, wearing a jacket too thin for the weather and boots that don't match. 6 years old, maybe 7, with wide eyes that reflect the headlights like an animal's. Kale's heart stops. Riven's jaw clenches. What the hell? Riven says, and he sounds genuinely annoyed, like the kid's an inconvenience rather than a witness. How long has? The child doesn't move, doesn't speak, just stares with the kind of terror that comes from seeing things kids shouldn't see, knowing things kids shouldn't know. Kale tries to step forward. Are you okay? Are you lost? Where's your? Riven grabs his arm, yanks him back hard enough to hurt. Don't. There's a kid out here alone. Not our problem. Not our. Kale twists, stares at Riven like he's seeing him for the first time. Are you serious? Look at them. They're freezing. They're scared. And someone will find them. Riven's grip tightens. Someone who isn't us. Someone who isn't in the middle of a private conversation that's none of their business. They're a child. They're a complication. Riven's voice goes flat, and that's worse than anger, worse than manipulation. Just pure empty calculation. And we're leaving. He pulls Kale toward the driver's side door. Kale resists. We can't just. We can. Riven's patience snaps. We are. Get in the car. No. The word hangs in the frozen air. Kale's not even sure he said it out loud until he sees Riven's face change, sees the mask crack and something uglier show through. What did you say? I said no. Kale's voice shakes but holds. I'm not leaving a kid out here. I'm not. I can't. Riven's fist comes out of nowhere. The blow catches Kale on the cheekbone, sharp and precise, and the world tilts sideways, trees swapping places with ground, snow rushing up to meet him. The worst violence isn't always the punch. It's realizing nobody's coming to stop it. Cold. That's the first thing Kale knows when his brain starts working again. Not pain. That comes second, blooming across his face in waves that make his eyes water. But cold, seeping through his jeans where they're pressed against frozen ground, into his palms where they're braced against asphalt and ice. He's on the road. Somehow he's on the road, not near the car anymore, and he doesn't remember the transition between standing and here, just the gap where time used to be, filled with nothing but the taste of copper and the high-pitched ringing in his ears. Move. The command comes from somewhere deep, the part of him that hasn't given up yet, and he tries to obey, gets his hands under him, pushes up to his knees before the next hit lands. This one catches his ribs. Kale folds around it, gasps turn into coughs that spray red onto white snow, and he's dimly aware that this is bad, that broken things inside feel different than broken things outside, but the thought slips away before he can hold on to it. Stay down. Riven's voice comes from above, still calm, still controlled, like he's giving instructions to an employee instead of beating someone half to death on a frozen service road. You made this harder than it needed to be. This is your fault. Kale's vision blurs, clears, blurs again. He can see his own hand in front of him, fingers splayed against asphalt, and there's something wrong with his pinky, the way it bends at an angle that fingers don't normally bend. But when he tries to focus on it, the world swims and he has to close his eyes or risk throwing up. Footsteps crunch closer. Kale curls tighter, makes himself smaller, like that's ever helped. Like prey instinct means anything when the predator's already won. Look at me. He doesn't. Can't. A hand fists in his hair, yanks his head back, and Kale's eyes snap open on a sharp cry that barely sounds like him. Riven's face hangs in front of his, upside down from this angle, cheeks flushed from exertion, eyes bright with something that might be adrenaline or might be pleasure. I said look at me. Kale looks. You don't get to leave, Riven says, and each word comes out measured, emphatic, like he's teaching a lesson that needs repetition to stick. You don't get to embarrass me. You don't get to act like you have choices when I'm the one who decides what happens to you. Do you understand? Kale's mouth works. Blood and spit and something that might be a tooth or might be snow makes it hard to tell what he's trying to say. Do you understand? Yes, comes out as a wheeze. Yes, what? Yes, I understand. Good. Riven releases his grip, and Kale's face hits the ground again. Softer this time, almost gentle. That's good. We're making progress. The footsteps retreat. Kale stays down, cheek pressed to frozen asphalt that feels almost warm compared to the air, and tries to remember how to breathe around the pain in his ribs. For in, hold. Something breaks on the hold. 6 out comes as a sob. He's gonna die out here. The thought arrives clear and calm, like weather report. He's gonna die, and they'll find him in the spring when the snow melts, and Riven will be at the press conference looking devastated, talking about mental health and tragedy and how you never really know what someone's going through. A sound breaks through the ringing. Not Riven. Not the wind. That whimper again, closer now, and Kale forces his eyes open even though they want to stay closed, even though the effort makes his head pound. The child stands 10 feet away, closer than before, braver than any kid should have to be. Their face is streaked with tears that freeze on their cheeks, and their hands are balled into fists at their sides, and they're looking at Kale like they're waiting for him to do something. Save them, save himself, do anything except lie here bleeding. Run, Kale tries to say, but it comes out as just breath, no sound. He tries again. Run. The kid doesn't run. Riven's talking to himself near the car, muttering something about messes and complications and problems that need solving. His tone is the same one he uses when he's working, running through options, making pro-con lists in his head before deciding which choice serves him best. Kale's heard that tone 1,000 times. Never thought he'd hear it applied to murder. But that's what this is, isn't it? Past some invisible line he didn't know they were crossing until they were already on the other side. Past discipline, past control, past any definition of love that makes sense. This is just ending. The child takes a step forward. No. Kale manages, louder this time. Stay back. Stay. Light explodes behind them. Headlights. Bright enough to bleach color from the world. To turn snow into white static and trees into black cutouts. And Kale has to squeeze his eyes shut against the glare. An engine. Running smooth. Idling. Not Riven's car. Different pitch. Different rhythm. Kale tries to turn his head. See who's there. See if this is help or something worse. But his body won't cooperate. Won't do anything except lie there and shake while blood drips from his nose and pools in the hollow of his collarbone. Doors open. Multiple doors. Footsteps approach, but these are different. Coordinated, purposeful, the kind of walk that comes from people who know exactly what they're doing and don't need to announce it. Gentlemen. Riven's voice shifts immediately, slides into charm like putting on a jacket. I appreciate the concern, but this is a private matter. Domestic dispute. We're working through it. No response. Just footsteps. Getting closer. I'm Riven Hale. Louder now with an edge of impatience. Perhaps you've heard of me. I run the Omega Protection Initiative. I'm sure we can. We know who you are. The voice is male. Deep. Completely neutral. Kale's never heard anything sound so dangerous while saying so little. Then you understand this is between me and my partner. Riven's tone hardens. And unless you want problems with some very influential people, I suggest you. The child. What? The child. A pause. Where are they? Silence stretches. Kale can hear Riven thinking, recalculating, trying to find the angle that gets him out of this. He's good at that. Great at it. Built a career on making things that should matter stop mattering to people who should care. But something's different this time. Something in the air. In the way these strangers aren't asking questions or making threats or doing any of the things people normally do when they stumble into violence. They're just waiting. There. Riven finally says. In the trees. Showed up out of nowhere. Not my responsibility. More footsteps. Lighter these times. Moving past Kale toward where the kid is standing. Frozen in fear or shock or both. A figure crouches near them. Kale can see it in his peripheral vision. A dark shape against white snow. Moving with careful slowness like approaching a wounded animal. It's okay. The figure says, and this voice is different from the first, slightly higher, but with the same eerie calm. You're safe now. The kid doesn't move. We're going to get you somewhere warm. The voice continues. But first, can you tell me your name? No answer. That's okay. You don't have to. Can you come with me? A long pause. Then small footsteps crunching away from the scene, growing fainter. Kale closes his eyes. Feels tears leak out and freeze on his temples. At least the kid's safe. Whatever happens to him now, at least. Look at me. The command isn't directed at Kale, but he feels it anyway, the weight of it. Riven makes a sound. Not scared, not yet, but confused, uncertain, like he's playing a game where someone changed the rules without telling him. Do you know who I am? Riven asks again, and now there's a thread of desperation under the confidence. Who I work with, who I know. You can't just. We know. That voice again, the first one. Still neutral. Still terrifying. Your name, a third voice adds, identical to the others, is being written down right now. The time, the location, the witness, everything. You can't. There's no proof of. This is his word against mine, and I promise you nobody's going to. We have proof. Silence. What proof? Riven's voice cracks slightly. There's nothing. No cameras. No. Tire tracks. Blood. Your skin under his fingernails. The child's testimony. The bruises on his throat that match your handprints. A pause. Should we continue? Kale's heart is trying to break through his ribs again. But for a different reason now. Because these people, whoever they are, they're not here to save him. That's not what this is. This is something colder. More calculated. This is power meeting power. And Riven's realizing he's outmatched. Who are you? Riven asks, and all the charm is gone now, just raw fear underneath. Concerned citizens. Bullshit. You're them. The triplets. I've heard, people say. What people say isn't relevant. Footsteps come toward Kale now. He forces his eyes open, sees 3 figures standing in a loose triangle around him. Identical heights. Identical builds. He can't make out features in the backlight, just silhouettes, but something about the way they stand, perfectly balanced, perfectly still, makes his hindbrain scream danger. One of them kneels beside him. Don't move. They say, not unkind. Help is coming. Please, Kale's voice breaks. Don't leave me with. We're not leaving you. A phone appears. Dial tone. Someone answers. Medical needed. Service road. County 14. 1 victim, multiple trauma. The voice rattles off coordinates that Kale doesn't understand. Yes. Now. The phone disappears. The figure leans closer, and Kale finally sees a face. Sharp features, dark eyes that reflect nothing, expression completely blank. Can you tell me your name? Kale. Kale Rowan. Kale. The figure nods slightly. My name doesn't matter. What matters is that you're going to be fine. Do you understand? Kale doesn't understand. Doesn't understand any of this. But he nods anyway because what else can he do? The figure stands, moves away, and Kale's left staring at the sky. At clouds backlit by city glow somewhere beyond the trees. At snow falling in spirals that look almost beautiful if you forget why you're watching them. Behind him, Riven is talking fast now, making offers, dropping names, trying everything that's always worked before. Nobody responds. And Kale thinks, through the pain, through the fear, through everything, that maybe silence is the most terrifying response of all. Because silence means the game is already over. You just don't know the score yet. Sometimes the scariest rescues are the ones where nobody's smiling. Riven straightens his jacket. The gesture is automatic muscle memory from 1,000 boardrooms and galas, and watching him do it now, with blood on his hands and a man broken at his feet, makes Kale's stomach turn. Because this is what Riven does. This is who he is. Someone who can compartmentalize violence like a business expense, who can hurt someone and then smooth his collar like nothing happened. I think there's been a misunderstanding, Riven says, and his voice has found that smooth register again. The one that's convinced judges and donors and reporters that he's reasonable, trustworthy. I understand how this looks, but context matters. Kale and I have a complicated relationship. These things happen between partners. Heat of the moment. The three figures don't move, don't speak, just stand there in perfect stillness, arranged in a triangle that somehow feels deliberate, strategic, like chess pieces that have already calculated every possible next move. Riven's smile tightens. I'm sure you're familiar with my work, he continues, pulling out his phone now, a flash of expensive metal and glass. The Omega Protection Initiative. We've partnered with the mayor's office, the police commissioner. I have the governor's personal number. One call and make the call. The voice comes from the figure on the left or maybe the right. Kale can't tell from this angle. They all sound the same, look the same, move the same. Riven blinks. I'm sorry. You said you could make a call. A pause. Make it. There's something in the invitation that feels like a trap. Riven must sense it too because his hand hovers over the screen, thumb frozen above whatever contact he was about to press. I don't think that's necessary, he says carefully. I'm simply establishing that this situation involves people with significant influence. The middle figure speaks now. Yes, we understand influence. We're quite familiar with it. Then you understand why continuing this conversation would be recorded. Riven stops. Excuse me? This conversation. The third figure gestures slightly, and Kale notices for the first time that one of them is holding something small and dark. Could be a phone. Could be something else. It's being recorded. Time-stamped. Backed up to 3 separate servers. Would you like to continue? The color drains from Riven's face. Kale watches it happen in real time, the realization hitting, the calculations shifting, the careful construction of control crumbling at the edges. Because recording means evidence. Evidence means questions. Questions mean investigations. And investigations mean looking at things Riven has spent years making sure nobody looks at. You can't. Riven starts, then stops. Regroups. That's illegal. Recording someone without consent is perfectly legal, the first figure says, in situations where criminal activity is being documented. Or did you forget that part of the law? Sirens start in the distance. Faint. Growing louder. Riven's eyes snap toward the sound, then back to the 3 strangers, then to Kale still lying in the road, then back again like he's trying to solve a problem that keeps changing shape. Who called? I didn't hear. We did. The middle figure tilts their head slightly. For minutes ago. Medical and police. Both en route. Police. Riven's laugh comes out sharp, almost hysterical. You called the police. Do you have any idea who they'll believe? I have friends in that department. Real friends. People who understand how things work. We understand how things work too. The simplicity of the statement lands heavier than any threat. Kale tries to sit up and fails, his ribs screaming protest. He gets as far as his elbows before the world tilts dangerously and he has to stop, gasping through clenched teeth, tasting blood. One of the figures glances his way. Don't move, they say again. You'll make it worse. Can't get worse, Kale mutters, but even speaking hurts. Words catching on something damaged inside. It can always get worse. The figure turns back to Riven. As your friend is about to learn. The sirens are close now. Close enough that Kale can tell there are multiple vehicles, multiple responses, the kind of presence that doesn't show up for domestic disputes that happen in isolation. Riven knows it too. He's backing toward his car now. Slow steps that try to look casual but come off as retreat. I'm leaving, he announces, pulling keys from his pocket. I'm not staying for some circus where. You're not leaving. All three figures speak simultaneously. The effect is unsettling in a way Kale can't quite name, like hearing an echo before the original sound, like reality glitching for half a second. Riven freezes. You can't stop me. You're not cops. You're not. Look behind you. Riven turns. Another vehicle has appeared, blocking the road back toward the city. Kale didn't hear it arrive, didn't see headlights, but there it is. Dark, anonymous, positioned precisely to prevent escape. Riven's voice cracks. This is kidnapping. Illegal detention. You can't just. We're not detaining you. The first figure sounds almost bored. The police will do that. We're simply making sure you don't become a flight risk before they arrive. I'm not a flight risk. I live here. I work here. I'm not going anywhere. Then waiting shouldn't be a problem. The logic is airtight. Trap disguised as reason. Kale would admire it if he wasn't currently bleeding in the middle of the equation. Red and blue lights paint the trees now, strobing through snow, making everything look surreal. The sirens cut off abruptly, replaced by the slam of doors and radio chatter and voices calling instructions to each other. Paramedics reach Kale first. Hands on his shoulders, gentle pressure. Someone telling him to stay still while they check his pulse and shine lights in his eyes and ask questions he can't quite track. Can you tell me your name? Kale. Kale? Can you tell me what hurts? Everything. A soft laugh. That's pretty normal for this situation. Can you be more specific? Ribs, face, hand. He tries to move his fingers and regrets it immediately. Okay, we're gonna get you on a board, get you stabilized. Someone's gonna hold your head, keep your neck straight. Is that okay? Is it okay? What a question. Nothing's okay. Nothing's been okay for years. But Kale nods anyway because these people are trying to help, and that's more than he's had in so long he almost forgot what it felt like. More hands. Collar around his neck. Board under his back. The world tilts as they lift him, carry him toward the ambulance, and Kale catches a glimpse of Riven surrounded by police now, talking fast, gesturing, building the narrative that's going to save him. Because it will save him. It always does. Men like Riven don't face consequences. They face inconveniences. They face PR problems that money solves and connections smooth over and time buries under new headlines. The three figures stand apart from the chaos, watching. Just watching. One of them meets Kale's eyes as the paramedics load him into the ambulance. Their expression doesn't change. Doesn't offer comfort or promise or anything resembling hope. They just look at him like they're memorizing his face, cataloging details, filing him away under unfinished business to be dealt with later. The doors close. The ambulance starts moving. And Kale lies there in the artificial warmth, surrounded by steady beeps and gentle voices, and thinks about that look. About how rescue shouldn't feel like being claimed. About how safety shouldn't come with a price he can't see yet. About how somewhere between violence and peace, he just traded one kind of cage for another. The thought should scare him. It does scare him. But fear takes energy, and he doesn't have any left. So he closes his eyes and lets the darkness come, and tries not to think about what happens when he wakes up. The worst deals are the ones you make while bleeding. White ceiling. That's what Kale sees when consciousness drags him back. White tiles with small holes, the kind that are supposed to absorb sound but never quite work, and fluorescent lights that hum at a frequency just high enough to make his headache worse. He's not dead. The realization comes slowly, layered under the awareness of pain. Dull now, muted by whatever they've got running through the fore in his arm. His hand throbs. His ribs feel wrapped too tight. His face has that puffy, disconnected sensation that comes from swelling and medication and trauma. But he's not dead. A machine beeps steadily beside him. Heart monitor, probably. Proof that something inside still works. Kale tries to turn his head and discovers his neck is braced. Foam and Velcro holding him in place. The room comes into view in pieces. Blue privacy curtain, empty chair, window with blinds drawn, door closed. Generic medical space that could be anywhere. No police tape. No officers standing guard. No riven. That last absence feels like a held breath. Like waiting for a shoe to drop that hasn't dropped yet but definitely will because gravity always wins eventually. Kale's fingers twitch against sterile sheets. The movement sends pain shooting up his arm, his pinky, the one that bent wrong on the road. They've splinted it now, buddy taped to its neighbor, but it still feels alien, like it belongs to someone else. The door opens. Kale's whole body tenses before he can stop it, every muscle locking despite the medication, despite the splints and wraps and immobility. Flight response with nowhere to go. But it's just a nurse. Middle-aged, tired eyes, purple scrubs with cartoon cats on them. She checks his makes a note on a tablet, doesn't quite meet his eyes. "You're awake," she says. Statement, not question. "Yeah." His voice comes out rough, throat raw from screaming or choking or both. Pain scale 1 to 10? Kale considers lying. Considers saying he's fine. It's manageable, he doesn't need anything. Old habit, don't make trouble, don't be difficult, don't give anyone a reason to see you as a problem. 7, he says instead. She nods, adjusts something on the 4-pole. "That'll help in a few minutes. Doctor will be by soon to talk about your injuries." "What?" Kale swallows, tries again. "What time is it?" 3 a.m. "You've been out for about 6 hours. They had to sedate you during imaging." Kept trying to get up. Kale doesn't remember that. Doesn't remember anything after the ambulance doors closing except fragments. Bright lights, people in masks, someone asking him questions he couldn't answer. "Is there?" The question sticks in his throat. "Did anyone?" "No visitors." The nurse's tone is careful, professional. "Your chart has a note. No visitors without doctor approval." Relief and dread twist together in Kale's stomach. No visitors means Riven can't walk in. But it also means nobody else can either. No friends. No family. No one to witness what happens next. "Your phone and belongings are in the safe." The nurse continues, moving toward the door. "When you're discharged, they'll return everything. Press the call button if you need anything." She leaves. The door clicks shut, and Kale is alone with the beeping and the humming and the too white ceiling. He counts tiles, finds patterns, loses count and starts over. Anything to keep his brain occupied, to stop it from spiraling into questions he can't answer and fears he can't name. Time passes. Could be minutes. Could be hours. Pain medication makes everything fluid, makes him float above his body just enough that the terror feels distant, academic, like it's happening to someone else. The door opens again. Different person this time. Doctor, based on the white coat and stethoscope, though they look too young, like they should still be in school instead of making decisions about broken people. Kale Rowan? They check the tablet. "I'm Dr. Chun. I've been overseeing your care since you came in." Kale nods. The brace makes it awkward. "You're very lucky." Dr. Chun pulls up the empty chair. Sits. 3 cracked ribs, non-displaced. Orbital fracture. Should heal without surgery. 2 broken fingers. Mild concussion. Extensive bruising. But nothing that won't heal with time and rest. Lucky. The word sits wrong in Kale's mouth. "We'll keep you for observation. Probably discharge tomorrow evening if your neurochecks stay stable. You'll need follow-up appointments. Physical therapy, maybe depending on how the ribs heal." A pause. "And you should know, the police were here earlier. They want to talk to you when you're ready." Kale's heart rate spikes. The monitor betrays him with faster beeps. "They can't force you to speak with them now," Dr. Chun adds quickly. "Not until I clear you. And even then, it's your choice." But they left a card. The doctor sets a business card on the rolling table beside the bed. Detective something. Vice and Special Victims Unit. There's also... Dr. Chun hesitates, choosing words carefully. "There's been interest from some advocacy groups." legal aid, crisis resources. I can have social services come talk to you about options, help you make a safety plan for when you leave. A safety plan. Kale's laugh comes out bitter. For when I leave and go where? That's something we can. He knows where I live, where I work, where my sister lives, where I get coffee. The words spill out faster now. Panic breaking through medication. A safety plan doesn't stop someone who spent 3 years learning exactly where you're most vulnerable. Dr. Chen's expression shifts, pity, maybe, or just exhaustion at having this conversation for the 100th time with the 100th patient who knows the system doesn't actually protect people, just documents their deaths more efficiently. I understand this is overwhelming, they say, but you're not alone in this. There are resources. Resources. Kale closes his eyes. Right? Resources that work great until they don't. Until someone gets tired of following up. Until paperwork gets lost. Until it's easier to just let things slide back to how they were because at least then it's someone else's problem. Silence stretches between them. I'm sorry, Dr. Chen finally says. And they sound like they mean it. I wish I could promise you this ends differently. But what I can do is make sure you have information. Make sure you know your options. Make sure you don't leave here without at least having a chance to choose what happens next. They stand, move toward the door, then pause. For what it's worth, those 3 men who called this in, they're the reason you're alive. They stayed until police arrived, gave statements. One of them made sure we had your insurance information before they left. They're gone. Kale's eyes snap open. Hours ago. But they left something. Dr. Chun pulls an envelope from their coat pocket, sets it beside the detective's card. Plain white. No writing on the outside. Sealed. I don't know what it says. Wasn't addressed to me. But they were very specific. Only give this to Kale Rowan when he's conscious and alone. The doctor leaves. The envelope sits there like a test. Kale stares at it, at the innocent white paper that probably contains nothing innocent at all, and thinks about choices. About how the worst ones always come when you're too tired to think straight, too scared to say no, too desperate to care about the cost. His good hand reaches for it. Stops. Reaches again. The paper tears easily. Inside, a single card, black, expensive stock, no name or logo, just a phone number embossed in silver and 3 words printed beneath. When you're ready. That's all. No threats. No promises. No explanation. Just an invitation to something Kale doesn't understand and probably shouldn't accept. He crumples the card in his fist, then smooths it out again, folds it, slides it under his pillow where no one can see. Outside his door, the hospital moves through its night routine. Footsteps, voices, machines beeping in other rooms. Evidence of life continuing while his stays suspended in this sterile bubble. Kale lies there in the artificial quiet and thinks about roads that split in the dark, about choosing between dangers you know and dangers you don't, about how survival sometimes means walking toward the thing that scares you because at least then you see it coming. The card burns against his scalp through the pillow. Promise. A threat. A choice he's not ready to make but knows he'll eventually have to. Sometimes the scariest part of surviving is figuring out what you survived for. The calls stop coming after the first week. Kale stares at his phone screen, scrolling through messages that used to flood in daily. Work opportunities, friend check-ins, invitations to things that made him feel like he existed in the world. Now there's just silence. 3 unread texts from his sister asking if he's okay, which he hasn't answered because he doesn't know how to lie that convincingly anymore. He's staying in an efficiency apartment the crisis center helped him find. Temporary housing, they called it. The kind of temporary that feels permanent because there's nowhere else to go. The walls are thin enough that he hears his neighbors' arguments, their television shows, their lives continuing while his stay's frozen. His laptop sits open on the kitchen counter, email inbox glowing. 17 job applications sent. 0 responses. Not even rejections, just void, like he's shouting into empty space and not even getting an echo back. Someone leaked his name. That's what Kale tells himself, though he doesn't know for sure. But somehow the story got out. Not the details, never the details that would make Riven look bad. Just enough that people know Kale was involved in something messy. Something complicated. The kind of drama that makes employers nervous and friends distant. He checks Riven's social media against his better judgment. Mistake. Riven's latest post shows him at some fundraiser, arm around a city councilwoman, both of them smiling for the camera. The caption talks about community investment and second chances. 300 likes already. Comments full of praise. Nobody asks about Kale. Nobody mentions that night. It's like it never happened. Kale closes the laptop before he does something stupid like commenting, like screaming into the void that the man in that photo almost killed him, that those hands shaking important people's hands wrapped around his throat 2 weeks ago. But who would believe him? Riven has receipts, character witnesses, a reputation built over years of careful construction. Kale has bruises that are fading and a story that sounds crazy even to himself when he replays it. The detective's card sits on his counter next to unpaid medical bills. Detective Morris called twice. Left voicemails about moving forward, about prosecution, about justice. Like justice is something that happens to people like Riven instead of people like Kale. He hasn't called back. What's the point? The system protects men who know how to work it. Men who donate to police benevolent funds and show up in newspaper photos and speak the language of power fluently enough that their violence becomes invisible. Kale's phone buzzes. Unknown number. His thumb hovers over the decline button, then answers before he can overthink it. Silence on the other end. Not dead air breathing. Someone waiting. Hello. Kale's voice cracks. Check your bank account. The voice is male, unfamiliar, calm. The line goes dead. Kale's hands shake as he opens his banking app, logs in, waits for the screen to load. His breath stops. A deposit. Made 3 hours ago. Amount, $50,000. Memo line, restitution. When money appears from nowhere, someone always wants something in return. But what? Don't miss what happens next. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story that inspires. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and help inspire others with your perspective. The deposit disappears by morning. Kale refreshes his bank app 17 times, watching the balance drop back to $234 like the $50,000 never existed. No explanation. No reversal notice. Just gone like he imagined it. Except he didn't. He has a screenshot saved to his photos. Proof that for 6 hours he had enough money to disappear, to start over, to become someone Riven couldn't find. And then someone took it back. The message comes at noon. Same unknown number. This time it's a text. Address attached. 2 p.m. Come alone. The address is downtown. Some office building Kale's never heard of. Respectable enough that it doesn't scream danger but vague enough that it could be anything. He shouldn't go. Knows he shouldn't go. Goes anyway because what else is he doing? Sitting in this apartment waiting for his life to restart itself? Waiting for people to forget? Waiting for Riven to decide he's not done yet? The building is glass and steel, the kind that reflects clouds and makes everything look cleaner than it is. No company name on the directory. Just floor numbers and suite letters that mean nothing. Suite 1847. The elevator is empty. Mirrors on all sides show Kale from every angle. Healing bruises turned yellow-green. Weight he's lost that he didn't have to spare. Eyes that look older than they did a month ago. 18th floor. The doors open to a hallway that smells like expensive carpet and recycled air. Suite 1847 sits at the end. Door closed. No nameplate. Kale knocks. Come in. The voice is familiar now, one of them from that night. Maybe all of them. He still can't tell them apart. The office is minimal. 1 desk. 3 chairs. Floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city spread out below like a game board. And sitting behind the desk, all 3 of them, the triplets. Dressed identically in dark suits. Watching him with expressions that give nothing away. Kale closes the door behind him because leaving feels more dangerous than staying. Sit. One of them says. He sits. The money, another begins, was a test. A test. Kale's voice sounds hollow even to himself. To see if you'd run. If you'd take it and disappear. If you were smart enough to know a trap when you saw one. The third leans forward. You called your bank, asked about the deposit, tried to verify it was real before touching it. That shows caution, intelligence. It shows I'm not stupid, Kale says. No. The first one almost smiles. Almost. You're not. Papers slide across the desk. Documents. Legal language Kale doesn't understand but recognizes the shape of contracts, agreements, terms, and conditions. Riven Hale is being audited. One of them explains his funding sources, his business partners, his protection network. It will take months, maybe years. But it's happening. And you want what? Me to testify? Give statements. We want you to choose. The word hangs in the air like a held breath. Walk away. Another continues. We'll make sure you're safe. New city. New identity if needed. Enough money to start over. No strings. Or, Kale asks because there's always an or stay. Help us understand how systems protect men like him. Be part of dismantling it. Not as a victim, as a witness who refuses to disappear. The city glitters below them, pretty and poisonous and full of people who'll never know this conversation happened. Kale looks at the papers, looks at the three identical faces waiting for his answer, thinks about that child on the road. I stay, he says. The most dangerous choice is the one you make when you're finally ready to stop running. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Share your thoughts below. Your voice matters and might inspire someone else facing impossible choices. The work isn't what Kale expected. No revenge schemes. No dramatic confrontations. Just spreadsheets and bank statements and emails printed on paper so thin it feels like holding smoke. He sits in a small room off the main office, going through financial records that make his eyes cross, looking for patterns he barely understands. Here, one of the triplets. Kale started calling them 1, 2, and 3 in his head since they won't give names. Slides another folder across the table. Security contracts from 2019 through 2023. Flag anything that doesn't match reported income. Kale opens it. Pages and pages of numbers that should mean something but mostly just blur together. I'm not an accountant, he says. You don't need to be. You need to notice what doesn't fit. You lived with him. You know his patterns. That's true. 3 years of watching Riven work. Listening to phone calls he thought Kale wasn't paying attention to. Seeing invoices left on counters and names dropped at dinner parties. Information absorbed through proximity, through survival, through the necessity of knowing your captor's schedule. Kale finds the first discrepancy around hour 3. A payment to a security firm that doesn't exist anymore. Except Riven's books show ongoing monthly transfers. Money going nowhere. Or money going somewhere it's not supposed to. This, he says, pointing. 2 or maybe 3 leans over his shoulder. Studies the page. Nods once. Good. Keep going. Hours blend together. Coffee appears without Kale asking for it. Sandwiches materialize at some point. The city outside the windows shifts from afternoon to evening to night, lights coming on in waves. Kale's back aches. His head pounds. But there's something almost meditative about this work, about finding the cracks in Riven's perfect construction, about proving what he always suspected, that the whole empire was built on rot, just hidden well enough that nobody bothered to look. Why me? Kale asks during a break, rubbing his eyes. You could hire actual investigators. People who know what they're doing. Definitely one, he's starting to recognize subtle differences in the way they move. Looks up from their own stack of papers. Because investigators find facts. You find truth. There's a difference. That doesn't make sense. It will. And somehow it does. Because Kale knows which charities Riven actually cares about versus which ones are just photo opportunities. Knows which business partners he talks about with respect versus contempt. Knows the difference between legitimate work and performance. That knowledge matters. Makes him dangerous in ways Riven never anticipated. Around midnight, Kale finds something bigger. A shell company. Payments routing through it to city officials, police department discretionary funds, judges' campaign contributions. All legal on paper, all perfectly documented, all absolutely corrupt in practice. This is. Cale's hands shake holding the evidence. This is how he does it. This is how he stays protected. Yes, 3 says simply. And now we prove it. The folder closes. The office empties, and Cale walks out into the night air feeling something he hasn't felt in years. Useful. Not broken. Not saved. Not protected. Just useful. It's not the same as free, but it's closer than he's been in a long time. Sometimes power isn't loud. It's knowing exactly where to look and what questions to ask. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. You won't want to miss what comes next. Comment below about what you think Cale should do. Your insights might help someone else navigate their own impossible situation. Riven's world cracks slowly, then all at once. First, the law firm drops him. Professional courtesy letter citing conflicts of interest. Nothing personal. Best of luck. Then the board seat he held for 5 years. Asked to step down temporarily while some questions get resolved. Just a formality, no hard feelings. Then his accounts freeze. Not all of them. Just enough. The ones tied to the shell company, to the contracts Cale flagged, to the money that looked clean until someone traced it backward to its dirty source. Cale watches it happen from his apartment, from the office, from the safe distance of someone who's finally on the other side of the glass. The news doesn't cover it. Riven's too smart for public scandal. But the networks that matter know. The people who took his calls stop answering. The invitations dry up. Isolation tastes different when it's not yours. He's asking about you. 2 mentions one afternoon, casual like discussing weather. Cale's stomach drops. What? Trying to find out where you are. Who you're working with. Called in favors with people who don't owe him favors anymore. A pause. He's scared. Good, Cale thinks but doesn't say. Then feels guilty for thinking it. Then feels angry for feeling guilty. Is he dangerous? Cale asks instead. Everyone's dangerous when they're cornered. 2 slides of phone across the desk. New. Different from Cale's personal cell. Use this if you need to reach us. Goes directly to all 3 of us simultaneously. Press 1 and hold if there's an emergency. The weight of it feels heavier than plastic and glass should feel. 3 weeks pass. Riven's lawyer contacts Cale's lawyer, court-appointed, arranged by the Triplets, someone who actually seems to care. Settlement offer. Generous on paper. Enough money to disappear and never speak about what happened. All Cale has to do is sign an NDA and walk away from the investigation. Cale reads it twice. Thinks about his sister. About starting over. About how tired he is of living in this half-state between victim and witness. He tears it up. No settlement, he tells his lawyer. You're sure? This is a significant amount of money. I'm sure, because money is what Riven understands. Money is how he solves problems, how he makes inconvenient truths disappear. And Cale taking it would prove everything Riven believes, that everyone has a price, that loyalty is just a transaction, that power always wins. The lawsuit moves forward. Civil, not criminal. The detective explained the difference. Criminal means proving intent beyond reasonable doubt. Means juries and public trials and evidence that's hard to gather when the defendant has resources. Civil means showing harm, means documented injuries and witness testimony and a lower burden of proof. It's not justice, but it's something. Cale sits in depositions, answers questions from lawyers who make him repeat the worst moments of his life in clinical language for court reporters to transcribe. He shows photos of bruises, medical records, text messages that look innocent until you understand the code. Riven sits across from him in one deposition, face carefully neutral, expensive suit perfectly pressed. They don't make eye contact, don't speak except through lawyers. And Cale realizes this is the end. Not dramatic, not satisfying. Just 2 people in a conference room with fluorescent lights and stale coffee, dismantling 3 years of trauma one question at a time. The settlement comes 3 months later. Not the generous offer. A smaller amount, barely enough to cover medical bills and legal fees. But it comes with something better. A judge's acknowledgement that harm occurred. Documentation. A paper trail that says Kale wasn't lying, wasn't exaggerating, wasn't the problem. It doesn't feel like winning, but it feels like surviving counted for something. Victory doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it just feels like finally being able to breathe. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications for the final chapter. Tell us in the comments, what does justice mean to you? Your perspective matters and could help someone else find their way forward. Spring comes late, but it comes. Kale notices it walking to the office. Trees budding green against gray buildings. Temperature shifting from brutal to bearable. Light lasting longer into evening. Small changes that feel significant when you've spent months in survival mode. He still works with the triplets. Different cases now. Other people's stories, other systems that need exposure. He's good at it. Finding patterns, connecting dots, understanding how abuse hides in plain sight when nobody wants to look too closely. They pay him. Not much, but enough. Enough for a better apartment. Enough to help his sister with her rent when she needs it. Enough to feel like a person instead of a problem. Riven sends one last message. Not to Kale, to his lawyer. An email about moving forward. About hoping there are no hard feelings. About mutual respect and lessons learned. Corporate language that means nothing, changes nothing, but apparently needed to be said so Riven could pretend this was all just a misunderstanding between reasonable adults. Kale doesn't respond. Doesn't need to. He sees Riven once, months later. Across the street at a coffee shop, looking smaller somehow without the context of control. Their eyes meet for half a second. Riven's face does something complicated, recognition, fear, anger, shame, all fighting for space. Then he looks away first, and Kale keeps walking. The triplets never explain who they are, what they want, why they helped. Kale stops asking after a while because maybe the why doesn't matter as much as the what. They gave him a choice when he didn't have one, and he's still choosing to stay. He testifies in court for another case. Not his own, someone else's. A young man who reminds Kale of himself 2 years ago, scared and alone and convinced nobody will believe him. Just tell the truth, Kale says during a break. That's all you can do. What if it's not enough? Then at least you said it. At least there's a record. At least someone heard. The young man nods, still terrified, but walks back into the courtroom anyway. Kale watches from the gallery and thinks about that night on the frozen road. About the child who witnessed everything. About how stories don't end cleanly, don't wrap up with justice served and lessons learned and everyone moving on healed. Sometimes stories just continue. You carry the scars. You learn to live around them. You find purpose in the gaps between what happened and what you wanted to happen. His phone buzzes, the special one from the triplets. New case. New evidence. Someone needs help. Kale finishes his coffee, stands, buttons his coat against the spring wind that still carries winter's bite. He's not fixed, not whole, not the person he was before Riven and maybe never will be. But he's here, breathing, useful, choosing to stay in a fight that doesn't end, that can't end, because the systems that enabled his abuse are still running, still protecting predators, still crushing people who don't have resources or luck or 3 mysterious strangers who show up at the right moment. He can't fix everything, but he can fix this. Today. This one case. This one person who needs someone to believe them. It's not redemption. It's not healing. It's just work. And sometimes work is enough. The end isn't always an ending. Sometimes it's just learning to live with what remains. Thank you for watching this story. If it moved you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next chapter. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters, and you never know who might need to hear that they're not alone. Together, we inspire each other to keep going.